Welcome back.
Again.
I'm super excited. Edwin, we've been talking for months. I've been trying to figure out a way to get your ingredients something. Edwin Gonzalez, can you tell us about your role at HTBA, what you do, and your company?
Absolutely. But first, let me thank you guys for having me here.
Of course.
This is a huge milestone for me to be here. Just as a fan of the industry, watching you guys for 10 plus years, this is really cool. So thank you.
Thank you.
What I do, I am one of the functional health sales managers at HTBA, which is Health Tech Bioactives, out of Barcelona, Spain.
Okay. So a lot to talk about with HTBA. There's a lot of really cool things about what you guys do overseas, environmentally, and how you create your products. But today, you are the core of this Skinny Bite, which
The core.
is super exciting about. Like at IFT, we talked about different applications.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's cool stuff.
We're all excited.
Yeah. We almost didn't get to use your ingredient because of the specifics of how we can use it and everything. But when we found out that we could not only put it in this food, but have a specific study to back the dosage that's in there, we were really excited about it. So tell us about MecobalActive. Tell us about the ingredient, where it comes from in this recent study.
Cool, absolutely. So there's one thing that I kind of would want to stress during this podcast, and that's what we're doing right now, HTBA. I'm gonna call it we are redefining B12. Okay, and what I mean by that is
It's about time, if you ask me.
Thank you, appreciate that, Joey. What I mean by that is traditionally the industry has always positioned B12 as a deficiency type vitamin, right? So it's something you take when you're tired, when you're sluggish, or when you're
If you have anemia, yeah.
right? However, I think what's cool is what HTBA is doing is we're changing that narrative. We're actually showcasing that B12, when it's in its purest and most bioactive form, can actually enhance performance. So it's acting like an ergogenic, and even in people who don't have deficiencies.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool.
I was working on a little content last month about this, and I kind of had a breakthrough where I realized, even outside of the deficiency talk, which I totally agree with you on, B12 is kind of just like a label dress for energy drinks, right? You see it on a Red Bull. It's B12.
It goes a long way. 100% RDA is a tiny, tiny amount, less than a milligram.
Don't get me started on that, the 2.4 micrograms, but
2.4, that's 2.4 hundredths of a milligram.
And we went with a full milligram. So in each
went
one of
with
these
full
cakes, you're going to get a full milligram, which sounds, just saying a full milligram
Wasn't it
sounds
like
funny.
30,000% RDA-ish?
Yeah.
Something like that.
But there's a push out there. I mean, I've read that there's a push out there for them to reevaluate the RDA. So I'm hoping that changes within some time.
I gotta be honest with you, I almost always kind of ignore what the RDA is. So we're talking about a pure ingredient here that has a study on it, right? So we made a food. We made a food that has this ingredient in it that can help with performance. And so many other things. I mean, obviously B12 already has an established name, but we fit it into this cream, and we asked Michael to figure out how to put it into a food, which was such a fun experience.
Which was awesome.
And he did a great job.
Such a great active. Yeah, I mean, thanks, bro.
You know the reason why it's in raspberry? Because of the color of the B12. It's like this deep red burgundy. What did it look like when you guys opened up the bag of that stuff?
Oh, I have the mix. It's it's nice and red, and you can see it's bright. But when you get that in the mix itself, it almost looks like you put some coloring into the entire
exactly,
product, which is great.
Yeah, red's my favorite color, so I love getting to work with this ingredient. It's super, super cool. When you guys handle it, when it's created, it's under red light.
Yeah.
It actually shouldn't be
It shouldn't
direct
be
light.
exposed to the
Yeah.
red light, exactly.
Originally, we were, just to kind of go off this cough a little bit, originally we were going to put this in an energy drink, and we wanted to put it in a clear can. And so we're having this really exciting talk at IFT. We're just gushing over this ingredient. There's a study, all this cool stuff.
Brainstorming.
And someone that works with him was just like, you can't do it, sorry. And cuts the whole thing. And we're like, I really wanted to use this ingredient. So putting it in the jam in the center of this product was really the solution. So we'll talk about kind of the what it does for people. But when you were making it into this jam, we gave you this ingredient, we're like, Michael, please work with this. What was the process of figuring out how to get it in there?
So Starler really drove home a lot of the R&D behind how do we get the product from a jam perspective to have the right texture, to have the right taste profile and the right consistency with the control on water activity to be able to get it across a good filling, right? When you're dealing with filling, you have to think about the machinery we're using, how fluid it is to run, is it gonna hold water, moisture, is it gonna impact the cake itself? Are you going to be able to experience the feeling for what you want the feeling to be? So like there was a lot of moving pieces, right? Even on bench before we went into pilot trials. And in that kind of path, like the cool thing is that, you know, with the 1 milligram, which is not a ton, but there was no kind of like off notes. We didn't have to fight it. Like, you know, we were able to utilize it. It helped the coloring, and then we just knew that there was a great active, right? So it wasn't a battle that we had to go against, which was huge.
It's really easy to work with. You literally only need a milligram. I mean, that's
Even if it tasted horrible, it's very unlikely that you would find that 1 milligram needle in that entire haystack of filling.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Did you have to work it up? Like, did you have to like bulk it up or anything? Like, it seems like
Because commonly, like B12, like when there's the 1% derivative.
There's a 1%, there's a 5%, there's a 10%.
Yeah, because like it's just such a small amount that you usually like you plate it on maltodextrin or dicalcium phosphate, so it's easier to measure and mix and blend and be homogeneous. But you guys sell the pure stuff.
We sell the pure, and we're proud about that. Yeah. So our product, so what makes MecobalActive unique is that, and just also for this, so MecobalActive is really like our flagship product, right? So it's our hero product. And MecobalActive is a 98% pure, ultra stable methylcobalamin, okay? And it's manufactured through a clean, solvent-free process. It's our green chemistry process. And what it yields a product that has half the impurities of our competition. It yields a product that has half the moisture of our competition, right? So for formulators like you that have the moisture, now you can account for less of an overage, right?
Well, and the material is just like a beautiful sandy kind of stuff. Like instead of like being like a clumpy mess that holds a lot of moisture, like it just flows. And it's when you have a powder that behaves almost like a liquid because of how well it flows, you're in a really good spot.
talk to us about like where it comes from. There's like we sat down at Supply Side East and you just made me fall in love with your company.
Okay.
Like you guys do so much in Spain. Like talk to us about it.
Okay, so the company is Health Tech Bioactives. We're based out of Spain. Company's been in business since 1978. So we have a heritage of nearly 50 years. Okay, so and we're also, I would tell you, we're renowned globally for we're global leaders in bioflavonoids and in B12. We're the only European company that manufactures all active forms of B12. That's methylcobalamin, that's adenosylcobalamin, and that's hydroxylcobalamin.
Cool.
And then a part of our story doesn't have to do necessarily with B12 is we're known for our upcycling and for our circular economy, it's called. And for example, so we manufacture bioflavonoids, right? And what we do is we take the baby oranges that fall naturally off a tree, okay? And what happens oftentimes is those baby oranges, usually within the juice industry, that just goes to waste, right? For us, what we utilize from that baby orange, the white part, which is the bellow, that's where we extract our bioflavonoids from. And it's a really unique process, and it's just who the company is. Like sustainability, for example, for us, that's not some marketing term that has become in the last couple of years for a lot of brands. It's at the core of who HTBA is.
That's really cool. When you were talking to me about that, I don't know these bioflavonoids isn't necessarily where B12 comes from, but like it shows that you guys care a lot about that. And I mean, I never considered what happens to the baby origins.
Saving the orphans.
Yeah.
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 That's what that is.
It just feels good to work with a company.
Upcycling, using these castaway baby oranges and giving them a real job and purpose in life.
Where does this B12 come from, though? Like, how is it created?
So methylcobalamin is synthesized, really, right?
Okay.
So the difference between us and a lot of the other companies out there is what we call the green chemistry process. Is we don't utilize a lot of what could be potentially toxic reagents per se through the
Like cyanide.
Well, so we can go there, right, with
Sure.
with cyanocobalamin, but like we use what's called iron and ferric salts, and just these items they have a lot less effect within the environment.
Okay.
And you get rid of them with a magnet. It's kind of cool.
That is interesting. And so that makes it easier to work with because you're ending up with a pure.
Well, it's a combination of things, right? So methylcobalamin itself, I mean, it's a very sensitive molecule, right? So it's sensitive towards light, for example, which we already discussed. But our process per se, right, and just the way that we apply everything, it separates that end product. So when I say like we have a 98% pure product, a lot of times, oftentimes in the market, you're not going to find that 98% pure. typically in the marketplace, the moisture content of a methylcobalamin is normally around 12%. Ours comes in at a 6% moisture content. So we've got half that moisture, all right? Also, our product happens to have a 5-year shelf life, which is twice as long as our competition. So normally
That's
methycobalamins
impressive.
have a 2.5-year shelf life, and it's stable in powders and in liquids.
Basically, what I keep hearing here is that it feels like and this is going to sound like a sales pitch to anyone listening to this, but it seems like a no-brainer that can fit into a lot of places. Like when we're talking about shelf life, we were like 12 months for a food is like good here, right? Like you're kind of taking out a lot of the hurdles here to keeping an ingredient in a formula.
And that's exciting, right? And then the other part of that, for example, right? Let's talk about like
this is like on the subject of like fortification of foods. This is exactly like what they do with iron and a whole bunch of other B vitamins and cereals and breads and stuff. We're just applying B12 to functional foods, and the same kind of style of this fortification that started in like the 50s.
So before this new data set that we have to talk about, like B12 was known for energy,
B12 is always
carbs.
been for energy, for cognitive function, for nerve function, right? So it plays a critical role within the nerve function in the body.
Okay. So without this new study, we would have already been able to talk about a fair amount of things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? But so we're putting it in this Skinny Bites product, and you come to us with this really cool new study. Tell us what users of these little cakes can expect from taking one.
Okay, so to give you guys some background here is, to the best of my knowledge, I had never seen any type of acute study on methylcobalamin and B12 within like in a performance type setting. Okay, so what we did earlier this year is we ran a clinical that was performed on 18 male trained cyclists. Okay, and just to give you guys an example, these were a group of they're amateur athletes that train 4 to 6 days a week. They have an average body fat, I believe, about 11%, and they have a median age of 32, and they have normal plasma B12 levels. Okay, and what we did is
So they're not deficient.
they're not deficient, and that's key because the majority of the studies out there were all done on deficiency, or they might have been done on like an elderly, geographic.
But
They
these
were
people,
supplied-
11% body fat.
Yeah.
That's pretty low.
They're athletes. I mean, but these are athletes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So what's key here is they were given 1 milligram, 1,000 micrograms of our MecobalActive per day. And then the 4th day, we ran a test. Okay, we ran both a sensory test, which tests your reaction time towards stimulus, right, with like a light board per se, and then the other test was a Wingate test. And the results of that test is what's really, really, really promising here. And that's, we saw a 4% increase in peak power output. We saw a 6% reduction in fatigue, in perceived fatigue. And we saw a 5% increase in reaction time with a 17% increase in blood plasma B12 and people who are not deficient. To also back
Does
things
that
up,
mean that there is a higher threshold than we think?
it could possibly mean that. And I think the other thing that I have to mention here is the study itself, it was a triple-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled crossover, okay? So what
Pretty
that
solid.
means, and this is impressive. What that
Do you know
means
how
is
many subjects?
18.
Okay.
What that means is nor the athletes, nor the researchers, nor the analysts knew who was receiving the B12 or the placebo, right, the MecobalActive. As far as placebo-controlled, one group was receiving the MecobalActive, the other group was receiving the placebo-controlled. As far as the crossover, well, what we did is there was the subjects got tested, right, and there was a group that randomly were being given MecobalActive, the other group was being randomly given the placebo. We then had a 7-day washout period where we then repeated it again, right? And so this just helps us have a more kind of like an efficacious type of clinical. And I think what's important here is it validates to the industry, right? And it gives now a lot of the brands out there, it's a clinically validated ergogenic that can increase, like I said, peak power output, can reduce fatigue, and helps with reaction time, with mental alertness.
Well, now you're the only B12 with structure function claims too.
Yeah, I'm kind of proud of that.
Yeah, nobody
We're
else
very
has
proud of
that.
We're very proud of that.
And does that only stand for MecobalActive, or are you guys going to do other studies on the adenocobalamin and the hydroxo?
So a couple of things. So MecobalActive, we feel has so much potential within the market, in the U.S. market, right? And it has potential in whether it's pre-workouts or like energy drinks that you mentioned. I think it should be in every hydration stick pack. It should be in every recovery product. Also strips, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
these strips, they could only fit 100 milligrams per strip. MecobalActive, you're using 1 milligram.
That's all you need.
Or now these pouches. Now we're seeing the trend, this rise of the pouches, right? And I'm seeing the cognizins and the caffeine. I'm like, MecobalActive needs to be in every single pouch for concentration out there. So
That is
I know unique.
That is interesting.
that's interesting.
And it's only 1 milligram. It's not like you're going to blow the cost out on it. You
Correct.
know, it's such a small dose.
or take up much
Oh,
room.
it's a fraction of pennies per serving.
Is this the first time you've made a food with an ingredient that like you can feel?
Outside of caffeine,
You make caffeine foods?
I have
What kind of caffeine foods?
bars.
Interesting.
Yep. We've done espresso with caffeine, about 100 milligrams.
Okay.
Oh.
I need to try that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually a collab with Barstool Sports.
No way.
Wow. And it's
Is that on market right now?
Yeah, it's in market. So it's Barstool Sports with a brand, Battle Bars, and it's a espresso
Oh.
bar, 100 milligrams of caffeine.
Now, is that additional, like either like natural or synthetic caffeine, or is that naturally occurring within like espresso beans?
No, the espresso contribute a portion, but the true amount, was 80 milligrams, is coming from caffeine and hydros.
Okay.
These B12s could fit in a lot of those things.
Well, this-
100%. It was
we're
the
the
first time
second
really
function.
utilizing a B12 in function, right? So this is the crossover where I find a lot of innovation and opportunity in the ready-to-eat category, right? It's like when you start playing into supplement type ingredients that add true function, that have the ability, and obviously you can't do the claims and you can't do all this
Yeah.
stuff, but technically there's benefits, right? And there's proven benefits. And so like, how do you utilize that now in a different format and really lean into it?
Sometimes you just need to find the right opportunity. And what clicked with me on this thing was color. And because of the color of it, and I was like, raspberry something, raspberry lemon cake. Okay, here we go. There's a way. Like, so if the light is, potentially damaging to it, let's stuff it deep inside the core of a cake. And then it won't have any light going on at all. Like anything that's blue, you could have like phycocyanin, or green, or you could have spirulina. Like if there's any kind of color, there's a way to throw some functionality into it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I love about it is, you brought up, well, we can't make claims. We kind of mentioned this with the GLP part. Like, we can't really say that. We're having fun at a show with these things, so we can kind of blur it a little bit. But if you were to sell it to a real customer, you can't. But those 4 different vectors that you're talking about, like, you're going to feel one of those. You don't necessarily need to tell people, like, hey, your fatigue's going to drop or your reaction time is going to improve. But if you give people these bars or these foods or whatever, they're going to feel those benefits. That's a real acute
Well, I mean,
thing.
especially if you already have someone who's a fatigued person, and then all of a sudden they just feel normal, and they're like, "Oh, wait."
So that's right. So anytime you're like deficient in B12, you feel it. You feel it. You feel it with your tired, your fatigue, muscles are weaker, brain fog, memory loss. I mean, those are all symptoms of a B12 deficiency.
And most people don't even know that it's going on. They think something else is going on.
And this is where I see like functional foods and beverages going, is much more than just, I mean, we're all drinking energy drinks, right? We drink these habitually because we get a headache if we don't, or
We got to do podcasts.
right.
There you go.
But to look at foods like this as things that you just consume regularly to feel benefits from, right? The drink that we're doing alongside these has creatine in it. But we don't want people to drink the creatine and be like, I'm getting my 5 grams for muscle. We want people to drink it because it's a helpful nutrient that people should focus on, right?
I have to add this. So you just mentioned creatine, right? So when I said earlier, like rethinking B12 and like redefining B12, I think it's really just like creatine, for example, where we knew creatine for all these years as strength, ATP, muscle. But what's happening now, this past years, we're seeing that creatine now, it's being really sold as for cognition, for the brain, for Alzheimer's. I've seen some research on
Sleep.
sleep. There you go, right? So it's not much different. It's like, well, we all knew creatine for this, but guess what? Creatine also has more benefits here.
Right.
Just like MecobalActive. We all knew B12 as deficiency, but it really can also enhance performance.
Right. When I announced these products, these foods to like our inner Discord community, I kind of use them as a sounding board. We got about like 1,000 early consumers in there.
Diehard fans.
Yeah. And we had some interesting questions and good feedback because I'm fascinated by these things. You sell these in 12 packs typically, right?
Yeah,
You sell
usually depending on the retailer, whether it's a 4-pack going into large scale,
Yeah.
Targets, Walmart,
Do you feel like people buy these in bulk to consume on a regular basis, or do you think they buy them on the go more often? Like,
I think so. So ready to eat foods, there's a lot of options out there, right? And there's continuous, innovation and new brands. And so you as a consumer, just like you would with an energy drink, right? You might have heard of the brand, and then you look and you're like, hey, what are the ingredients? And then you try it, and you love the flavor profile, and you like the taste, and you like the way it makes you feel, and then you gravitate to like, hey, I really like the XYZ of Gorilla Mind, so I'm gonna buy the case, right? So it's this evolution of seed to like, I love this product, and this is my go-to, and then you buy in bulk, right? But you wanna try to get the product into people's hands in initial touch point where they can try it with a 1-pack, right? They're able to pull that individual unit, whether it's at a vitamin shop or a GNC, or they're going to, a large retail store and buying a single. The experience is phenomenal, and then the repeat buy, they come back and they buy the bulk, or they're going to your direct-to-consumer site and they're buying from your site, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like get them in, and then once they fall in love with the flavor profile, the texture, or whatever the product is, you start to see the higher buying patterns.
I noticed like an interesting culture, and I don't know if this is just to myself. Like I'll buy the bulk pack because either I was impressed with it or there's just something I like about it and I want to share it with other people and just spread the awareness of like, this is a really cool functional food kind of thing. And I'll just have that 12-pack, and I won't eat all of it, but I'll have some. So whenever people come over, be like, check this shit out. And all of a sudden they like it, and they'll end up making a purchase. And then I'll circle back around later because obviously I'm going to run out from giving it away to everybody and then end up getting one for myself.
And so that's why you see the biggest seller of most brands is their variety pack.
yes.
Right? Because you're going to get a 12-pack, but you're going to get three
Yeah.
flavors.
That was one of the feedbacks that we got. It was they saw the flavors and they were like, that's really cool. But I think I'd have flavor fatigue off of, like, if I had 12 of these, I would probably get tired of that. I'm like, well, in a real life scenario, first of all, it'd be a much simpler product, I think. I don't think that most brands are going to do the complexity of this. But I would find a way to do this in 3 different varieties.
Oh, flavor skews.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Experience. Oh, this is, and the thing that's creative here is that when you're planing into different textures, so your fill, it's got its own world. What's the flavor of your fill? How do you modify the texture? How do you modify the flavor? Can you put inclusions in it? You got an Oreo cream. Like, there's so many different ways you slice the fill. Then you do the same thing with the cake. Then you do the same thing with the chocolate.
Right.
So
The whole
every
thing is
single layer
modular.
is like, it's
Yeah.
just so many different variations. You can get crazy creative.
We started this in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Right. To think about it,
Yeah.
really, it was like, core, mantle, crust, and we were just like moving these. How did these happen?
Curious to ask, when was that? Like, looking at today, like how long ago?
This was right after IFT.
Yeah.
Right after
Well,
you
that's
told us.
July, right? So
Yeah.
you're talking late July.
Yeah, you told us no on the can.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, we got to figure out, like, we had like a surplus of ingredients because the can this year is much simplified compared to last year. And we had a bunch of ingredients that we wanted to figure out a way to do something cool.
We went more crazy on the foods.
That's great.
The foods is more the Expo Energy style of last year.
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask, what was the hardest part of all this?
The time.
Timing.
When you're creating an innovative item at bench and you need to push it through scale and you need to ensure that it has the right taste and texture and process through machinery and all that, like doing that within, weeks is probably the hardest task.
And it was also
Because you
going
wanna
like
make sure
this.
And you also got to do your day job at the same time.
Yeah.
That was a funny part that we, like, everyone involved in the project, like, we'd all be like having a call or a discussion or whatever. And every single person at one point would say, like, I have a day job too, right? Like, I'm telling Joey, like, I got to record videos. He's got clients he's got to talk to. Michael's got other people that want to use the protein line, like, there's we're putting all this stuff on hold to create something cool.
100%. I mean, my head of ops is like, hey, Mike, we're losing money right now by not running these lines at the normal time. And I'm like, yes, but you understand something. We are going to make noise, and this is true innovation, and, like, this is what we stand for. Like, we want to drive innovation in this space, and it's going to cost us money, and it's going to hurt right now. But I believe that when people get to try and have the conversations around it, it's going to pay tenfold.
Yeah.
What was really cool is last year you had some donuts with NMB and New Live.
Yeah.
And so that was when I called you, I was like, hey, instead of doing different things, we're going to do one big one. We're going to have this. Well, we have two, but we're going to have them at every booth. So that way you don't have a thing here, a thing there. We've got one thing that everyone's talking
You're
about.
literally everywhere.
which I love.
And you got Pronova with
No, it's a very exciting, and just being able to play with your active on the B12 and like that's something new for us, and being able to play with like so many different other actives in one product, understanding how they work well together, how to make sure that they're masked properly, giving the consumer an experience that they're not going to be like, yeah, I get that you filled it with actives, but it tastes like shit. That would be that's not a good thing for anybody,
not
right?
what we want.
To create something that actually tastes great, that you can enjoy, that you'd want to eat, you would probably buy again.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you, brands are going to want this. I guarantee it.
I got a gut feeling my applications lab back in Spain is going to call me wanting to get a hold of you and be like, hey, we need to know what they did and how they did it.
Yeah, what else can we do, too?
And what else can we do?
Yeah, absolutely. Which we would love to kind of...
Ironically, I really see your B12 as one of the things. Well, let's back up. When we look at consumers buying either supplements or foods or any of these things, they love things that they can notice now, right? Like
Instant gratification, right?
yeah. I mean, Areomin in here, I don't need to tell you, it's a very well-known flavonoid that's won awards. It's, huge to talk about with the GLP, which is a huge topic right now. But you don't feel that when you consume it, right? People like caffeine. We were talking about caffeine being in bars. One of the reasons that works so well is you feel it. You consume it, you feel it, right? You look at pre-workouts, everyone loves beta-alanine. Beta-alanine doesn't work until you've consumed mass amounts of it
Like a
over
month,
weight.
right?
Yeah,
But you do feel the
but
tingles.
you feel the tingles, and people like that, right? It's funny, like you take that out of pre-workouts, people stop liking it. It doesn't do anything for you in the acute, but you can feel it. So that was one strength that when we got all this feedback about these foods, and people were like, well, I don't know if I'm going to consume 8 weeks of this, so I don't know if I'm going to get the GLP benefits, but if you have one, you will technically feel the B12. And that's such an interesting factor here that you have food that you'll notice.
And if you have one for 3 days, and that fourth day, you're going to see the benefits.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about the
Hey,
test
we
that
need
you guys
four
did on the
back.
blind placebo is that you did it on a 32-year-old, fit, active individual, right? And so, like, what about all the people that are just your everyday kind of like general population
Who are deficient.
that are going to be deficient, right?
Yeah,
Like, the
Especially
impact on
old
that.
people. Like the elderly is like
Exactly.
your best demo.
Or like vegetarians
vegans,
and
yeah,
vegans
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that study is really funny because I could see people being like, well, there's only 18 people, but it's triple blind, like
Line, crossover.
11% body fat. Like these people are already in great shape.
But also kind of back to understanding, like what I mentioned earlier is, to the best of my knowledge, this hasn't been done. I mean, we're the first acute clinical out there when it comes to methylcobalamin B12 within performance.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because B12 to me is in everything, right? Like think of any.
But they are not all created equal.
Sure, but like multivitamins, energy drinks, pre-workouts, like fat burners, all of these things, people love to say, oh, it's expensive pee because you do take B12, it does make your urine typically a little bit more colorful. But in this scenario, you have a real benefit that you actually can, mention and talk about and prove. I'm very excited about this. If you can't tell, it was the number one thing when people started giving feedback about like, well, this or that about this food, because I love the feedback we get from early consumers. It's very
They're going
valuable.
to let you know.
Yeah, yeah, and
Immediately.
They're going to let you know what they think.
and I think
First
that
bite.
we've been talking about functional foods for a couple of years now, and there's a lot of hurdles, right? It's more expensive. People might not appreciate all the ingredients and all these things, but B12 is such a funny way to get into this because it's already in it.
Well, also everybody knows it.
Exactly.
People know B12, right? So it's how do we tell the story of what makes our B12 better, right?
Yeah, that it is a better B12 compared to others. With the best part is methylcobalamin's the active form.
Correct.
It's the one that's actually doing work. It doesn't need to be converted. Like it is native to the body, and that's what your body's or the other two derivatives that you have, because those other two are like just as interesting as the methylco.
So what's interesting is we're seeing now an increase in customers asking us for adenosylcobalamin, which is also known as cobamamide, and also known as dibicosinide. And we don't know where this increase in awareness is coming from. We're trying to put our feelers out there, but there is an avenue for it. I do foresee HTBA putting more dollars towards them both, and really, they're really interesting ingredient.
Is there like any kind of benefit of the adenosine version over the methyl-co, or is it just another native form that the body is going to recognize?
See, I've read some different research out there. I've read where methylcobalamin is more active as far as like muscle energy,
Okay.
right? Where methylcobalamin could perhaps be more for cognitive function. I think we need to do some trials.
Yeah. Good idea.
In a future life, I'd love to talk more about your flavonoids and those citrus things for like applications and layers where we're talking about those flavors, right? Like it was funny because B12 was exciting and fun. My first thought wasn't the B12; it was those flavonoids because of all the flavor options.
And that's what we did with this lemon bioflavonoid. It actually helped the flavor of the embrobing.
Yeah, so I can add to this. So HTBA, which I mentioned earlier, we do bioflavonoids and active forms of B12. We have 4 divisions within the company. We have a pharma division, we have functional health, we have taste modulation, and then we also have animal feed. So there's so much additional benefits to bioflavonoids, and there's so much other applications that most people would never consider.
Yeah, you started talking about all the things that come out of citrus fruits, and I was like, man, like I started listing out of plenty of other things like synephrins, hesperidins, all sorts of other things. You had one we were talking
Naringenin.
before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking about NHDC,
Yeah.
the semi-synthetic derivative that's like not known as an artificial sweetener, but it's like part natural, part artificial sweetener.
It's kinda great.
But it works real good, though.
It does. It does. It does.
I mean, all possible things that I see. It's funny. I almost think more about foods. And it maybe just beyond the conversations that we've had recently, but all those ways that we can fortify foods with different benefits.
But it's the trend, right? I mean, look at like, what is it? The coffee shops are now offering protein within the foam, right?
We were just talking
Just talked about that in the last podcast.
Dude, this morning, Starbucks, Newark Airport, I order a cold brew protein drink, and I'm watching this lady like scoop protein over, and it's whey protein isolate. You know, I think it's hilarious to see like this hot commodity that everyone is trying to get their hands on.
But also, like, look at these major brands like the Kellogg's of the world nowadays, where they're making these fortified Pop-Tarts, for example, right?
Right.
Yep.
These protein
It
Pop-Tarts.
just like it came out now with like 10 grams of protein, and it's everybody's pushing into it, right? And even the large brands are realizing that
You guys must have pissed somebody off.
they're
You
coming
did
at whether
too good of a job.
there's a lot of noise being made.
Do you do toaster pastries here?
No.
Okay. The fun thing about foods is it's so much more equipment intensive, right? Like you go to a pre-workout protein, like it's powders that you blend, and there's not a lot. But
you can
like,
go from pre-workout to an amino to a protein.
Yeah.
pretty
Matter.
much with the same equipment.
when we were talking about this, because we did a workup with Starla, and then you kind of like scaled it, right?
Right.
And one of the funny things was we were like, "Can you do enrobing in Idaho?" And she's like, "I'll go get an enrober for my friend," and we'll like, you gotta go get this like equipment and do it, and so it's
Or
very
a panner,
intensive.
because we talked
Yeah,
about
we
that
talked
a lot.
Panning the balls, and and so with food production at volume, at scale, with quality and efficiency, everything is serious. I mean, we spent now recently just got a new like dual layer slab line with all the bells and whistles, doing robing, like nougat caramel type minus freezers, and it's millions of dollars, right? And for one type of product, right, at high volumes, but still like. If you want to do this in high volumes and have the cake and the bake and the tunnel oven and the fill and then robing, it's its own processing, line, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to drive into the efficiency of what you're trying to create. And so the Pop-Tarts would be that, right?
Yeah.
We can do it. It's just there's components and machinery.
You got to figure it out, and you're all about efficiency and automation, and like set it and forget it, and just let it run.
It's interesting, but the way that we've built this, and it's counterintuitive to how most manufacturers probably are built, but we will push innovation against a great product format for a brand. Once it hits, we invest into automation.
Yeah.
Right? Versus building automation and trying to fill it. Right? Because now you're stuck in filling automation. The line that we purchase is because there's many, many brands suffering from the lack of a great contract manufacturer being able to get them their products in time, efficiently, with somebody that they enjoy working with. And that's why we made that investment into that. But mostly, if we have the right brand and this is something that's going to hit and we see it, we can get them out the door 50, 70,000 units a day, no problem. But once we start getting into the millions of units on a monthly basis and we want efficiency, you have to invest in it, and which we're happy to do.
That was why when we came up with this idea, I said to Joey immediately, we got to go to Master Food because there's plenty of bakeries
Yeah.
Joey has some other food projects that I would love for you guys to talk
But
about.
like you were the most innovative one out of the bunch. Like you took the most risks and you were willing to do the most crazy stuff. And that's why we had to come here.
It was
the
immediate.
crazy stuff while still thanks, man. While still making sure that we are running it through the books, like it's being done right, like we're hitting the macros.
Were there any parts to this where technology or creativity in the construction of it like challenged you?
For sure.
Can you talk
Every
to
layer. So
every layer?
Every single bit of it.
I mean, the filling was pretty easy, and we were able to create more fluidity to run through the piston fillers than others. So the filling was great. It was very easy to work with. But the actual cake itself, right? And so cake has a structure, and you're trying to protect the structure, both from the form of when you run it through the actual piston fill and you're putting it into its mold. If we put this to get the nice shape that we want in a regular, let's say a muffin tray or a cupcake tray, right, in its mold, it was crumbly because it was so soft because of the protein combinations that we weren't able to maintain the structure, so that once you pulled it out of that pan, it kind of fell apart, right? So it was too soft because we wanted.
And then you
to
could also
create
get
the
it to be too hard.
But then if we had to modify and rework the formula and readjust the panel, it would have changed a lot of the infrastructure of what the product was. We don't have the time for that. So we had to basically make it within a liner. So we have to have a liner in the mold. The liner will protect it, hold it, and control the structure of the cake, and then peel off the liner to be able to get it to maintain its shape, right? So because we didn't have the time to modify the recipe against the macros and change the panels and all this stuff, we had to figure out a way to manufacture it within the capabilities and timeline. And that was probably the most complicated piece. It's like, hey, you got to figure out how to run this recipe. Like, I just got to figure it out with the machinery. So we had to put them in liners, which is inefficient, right? At scale, you don't want to put something in a liner to the.
You're not going to do 70,000 a day.
No, I'm fucking not doing that.
When you fill this with the B12 cream and everything, is there a spot for that, or are you just shooting in there and everything's expanding around from it? Does that make sense?
So basically, the piston fill has kind of like a little needle tip, and it kind of goes into the center and ejects it, and then it fills the center, right? It's mostly done with a fluid batter, right? So the more dense that, the harder and thicker that batter becomes, the harder it is to push into this. Now, the cake itself has to have this aeration, right? It has to give. So if you have a very dense cake and it's not going to move anywhere, all you're doing is it's going to pop, it's going to push, it's going to
squirt out the
squirt,
top.
right? You're not going to be able to allow it to come into it. So this, from a formulation perspective, we had to keep the structure soft and airy, right? To have the right moisture in it. So the experience is great, but so then also then you can fill it, it can hold the fill and then go into the cake itself.
Thank you for the masterclass.
Yeah.
Yeah. The enrobing.
Yeah.
Was that a process at all to get any of those ingredients in there? Because I know the protein you work with quite often, right?
Yeah, so we're working with, obviously, and this is a custom formulated chocolate, right? And so when you think about chocolate and when you think about enrobing, you have to color it, right? But we want to use natural coloring. So we're using the Aramin and the curcumin, and we're trying to get natural colors to kind of bring this to a yellow. We want to flavor it slightly. So we want to bring in the acidity and we want to bring in the flavor. So you have to add that, but that's very small amounts. And then obviously we're adding the B12 in there. And so, and also inoslins in there as well, right? So there's a lot of ingredients, but they're not in high quantities, right? So let's say we started to push a dry or something that changes the structure of the chocolate, and it starts to, let's say you were to add protein, right? With protein, you have to adjust your fat content. So you have to now reduce fat content, you have to play into your sweetener levels, and you have to be able to get the right protein structure, you have to use the right protein, and then you have to be able to ensure that it's grinded in a level through the ball mill to ensure that it gets the right micron size. And so if you go outside of any one of those scopes, or you push too much on a powder, the chocolate thickens and then it doesn't run and it's not smooth when it's enrobing. Yeah, it gets pasty and thick, and then you get these blotches or it's too thin. All right, so chocolate is its own animal.
Yeah.
But because we were able to utilize ingredients that we had to use very small, right, 1 milligrams, with very small amounts, we were able to make it work, no problem.
That's awesome. I got nothing else. This has been so interesting. Thank you guys so much.
I'm pumped to see the reactions, right? I think it's so
Yeah.
cool to create and all that, but today was actually the first day where I tried the product. It was just been trust the team, Love you guys. Please.
We were in a
don't
very
fuck this
similar
up.
place.
We've said that many times in the last like 2 weeks, like we just got to trust that the right people are in the right places and the right team is in place, because what we do with these projects, and I mean this very genuinely about everyone involved, so we bring the best people of the best categories together, right? Like I wouldn't trust this to any other bakery, right? I wouldn't trust the B12 to anyone else, right? I think that
I mean, most other bakeries would whine and say that they can't. Like they would come up with excuses like that just doesn't make sense, and then just go somewhere else. That is 100% what we would be told in this situation.
Yeah. And so we eventually were just like, you know what? We have to trust that the right people are in the right places to drive this home. And, you know, I mean, even David, your guy here, like from an operations standpoint, like the best, like just like shows up, makes things happen. And so we're super excited to see this.
And he doesn't cave under stress, and there was plenty of that.
A lot of
There has
pressure.
been
I mean,
plenty of
this industry right now and where we are, and I tell everybody on my team, I'm like, guys, you have to understand, every brand wants it tomorrow.
Yesterday.
Every brand is under their own level of pressure and stress and confinement of resources against the clock, trying to make sure their retailer's happy and building a brand. And then our job is to support them. So you will be under pressure. You will be under stress. And if you cannot walk on the fucking hot lava every single day and be okay, this is not the place for you.
Yeah, dude. I called David. I mean, we had an issue last Friday, and I didn't find out till Monday. And I called him, and he's like hunky-dory happy on the phone. Like, just, yeah, we're figuring it out. We're going to figure it out. Like,
figure it out.
and I'm like,
What are you gonna do?
I feel better already, and it's not fixed.
Yeah.
You know, like, I
Just
like,
gotta fucking do your
That is
You
a
just
skill
gotta do
that
your
you
best.
really need.
yeah, like someone asked me, like, do you feel better after your day of work today? And like, realistically, I didn't fix anything. Nothing happened. Nothing
But he
got
got
better.
talked off the ledge, and that's what's
But
important.
I felt better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like that conversation with David, and he was like, yeah, man, we found out 15 minutes before the end of the day on Friday, and I had 15 minutes, and it's been the weekend. Like, I haven't been able to do anything. But we're going to figure it out. Because the show's in a week and a half, and we're going to figure it out. Like, okay, we're going to figure it out.
I
you
think
know?
I told my team when we figured that, I'm like, hey guys, I just want to let everybody know you're going to take an extra luggage and it's going to be filled with product, and we're taking it up on Tuesday. Because if we need to buy a day of time and we got to do whatever we got to do, and we can't ship it and the whole entire thing, we're going to have to do what we got to do.
We're going to figure it out.
I mean, we've all had.
Yeah, we've all had
Yeah.
to do what you got to do.
And so it's so funny because like we on the back end, we're like, I realized there's never been one of these projects that went 100%. Every time you do
gotta
anything,
juggle.
But the person, like, we're going to show these products to brands that are going to see 25% of that and think that solves my problem. That thing, maybe it's the B12, maybe it's the protein in the aerobic, maybe it's the Pop Rocks, whatever it is, they're going to see a part of it. They're not going to see whatever it is that we have to deal with. They're probably not going to see it at all. They're probably not going to mind. So I'm super excited to present these to the industry. I cannot wait for how they're received. And this is only half of it. We also have the longevity
Still
series.
another project, yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta share, from like on the behalf of HTBA, we're super excited. We're super excited about this, and the reality is, I think this is the perfect vehicle to introduce the world to MecobalActive. I am so gung ho to pass these out myself next week.
What's your booth number? Where can people find you?
HTBA booth. The Health Tech Bioactives booth is 7765.
Ooh,
Nice.
77.
77. So it's right by the entrance on the right hand side.
Okay.
Come
so-
by, grab a pastry.
All right, and you guys aren't going to have a booth, but you're going to be floating all
We're
over
gonna
the
be in
show.
all the booths,
Like
have
we
these
are.
products.
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
be floating.
So yeah, you can find Michael and the Master Foods team at Supply Side West. They'll be all over the place. Obviously, Edwin's going to be at HTBA, and we're going to be floating around doing the same thing that Michael is.
Yeah. I can't wait to bring we have a whole bunch of people that want to try these, so we'll get them out to each booth, get them talking. Thank you guys so much for this experience and joining us here. This has been a lot of fun. We didn't do this for Dan before, but I want to make sure, Edwin, LinkedIn, people can find you?
Absolutely.
And is there any HTBA out there on LinkedIn as well? they can
Yeah,
find?
HTBA is on LinkedIn. You can also go to the website, which is htba.com.
Awesome. All right.
Nice.
And you, Head Rhino,
Yeah,
Instagram?
personal head rhino, but Master Foods Lab on Instagram and masterfoodslab.com.
And you have a lot of great video content that they can go check out.
Yeah, we try. I mean, I think there's not a lot of great manufacturers out there really kind of going behind the curtains and saying, look, this is how it works. And, as big as some of these brands are, they still need their hand held, and they still need to feel like someone's out there that's going to pick up the phone and support them. So I try to do my best when it comes to like, hey, we're here. I'm going to be front and center, and I'm going to try to help you kind of figure out whatever your needs are.
Awesome. Well, thank
right.
you guys so much for joining
Thank you.
us.